For centuries, the galaxy had known peace. The ancient empires of the Vathric Horde, the Genlar Alliance, and the Elder Xethar had held sway over vast stretches of stars, their political maneuvering delicate, and their power unquestioned. No one dared challenge the status quo. Every species had found their place in the intricate web of galactic politics, and the prospect of new civilizations was more of an abstract concept than a real threat. Humanity's existence was nothing more than a myth, a fragment of ancient history wiped out long ago, or so the galaxy believed. The ruins of their once great homeworld Earth were said to have been obliterated by a cataclysmic event millennia ago, lost to time and the forces of cosmic destruction. Yet there were whispers the humans had once been warriors driven by fire and ambition with the capacity to change the universe. They were thought to be long gone, fading into the annals of forgotten history no one remembered. But something had stirred in the forgotten corners of the galaxy. Strange signals began to pulse out from the farthest reaches of the void, subtle at first, then growing louder in frequency. Their origin was traced to a distant system where no known species had ventured before. The Xethar Empire had been the first to take notice and dismissed it as a miscalculation from one of their lesser satellites. They ordered their fleets to ignore the anomaly. But as the weeks passed and the signals grew more distinct, they began to gather the attention of other races. The mysterious signal was unlike anything any of them had ever encountered. Its rhythmic pulses seemed to be encoded with data, an unknown pattern reaching out across the stars. Then one fateful day, the unimaginable happened. The signals ceased, and in their place came a sight that none of them could have foreseen. The galaxy had long grown accustomed to the occasional ship drift or rogue freighter passing through its edges, but this was different. This was no accidental wanderer. What emerged from the blackness was something vast, something that filled the star systems with its sheer scale, an enormous ship whose size dwarfed even the largest known warships of the galactic empires. It was a shadow against the void, casting a terrifying presence across space. As it moved with eerie precision, slowly and deliberately, it cut through the star clusters on a direct path towards the core worlds. The first to witness it were the Genlar, who quickly scrambled their scouts to confirm its identity, but they were met with confusion and then terror. The ship's markings were unmistakable, the faint remnants of a once dominant human empire, long thought extinct. But there it was. The battleship was real. Humanity had returned, or perhaps it had never left their warship. Earth's fury had arrived, and it was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Massive and silent, it glided through the space lanes, cutting through the calm like a predator sensing its prey. The galaxy had no response, no preparation for the unexpected arrival of a species they had all but forgotten. They knew nothing of this new humanity, nothing of the power that had been lying dormant in the deep recesses of space, waiting for this moment. They only knew one thing: the silence of space now carried an undeniable tension. Something was coming, and no one was prepared for the storm that would follow. The galaxy's major powers watched in stunned silence as the human battleship Earth's Fury moved closer to the heart of their domains. Its presence undeniable, its intentions unclear. Every faction across the stars began scrambling, trying to make sense of the impossible sight before them. No one had expected humanity's return, and certainly no one had anticipated the arrival of a warship of such incredible scale. Every known fleet and military strategist was caught off guard, from the veteran Xethar warlords to the enigmatic and calculative Vathric governors. No one could find the right response. Fear began to creep into the core systems, the first true sign that something was different this time. The Council of the Galactic Empires convened hastily. An emergency summit held in the neutral zone, a massive station at the edges of Jorak space, where representatives of each empire would meet to discuss the mysterious arrival. They hoped for a peaceful resolution. Perhaps this human species was not as dangerous as they seemed. Perhaps they could be convinced to join the established order, perhaps even seek an alliance, a new race to share the galaxy with those who had held it for so long. But the galaxy underestimated the nature of humanity and the resolve of Captain Darien, the commander of Earth's Fury, who stood alone at the helm of the battleship, staring out into the cosmos with a calmness that only came from a people who had faced extinction and risen from the ashes. Each star that filled the void before him represented a challenge, a chance to prove humanity's right to exist among the stars once again. The Galactic Summit had dispatched a delegation of high-ranking diplomats to meet with the humans on their ship. They arrived aboard their finest cruiser, the finest ship of the Genlar fleet, hoping to make contact with this strange species. They approached Earth's Fury carefully as it hovered above a barren world. Near the galactic center, slowly it descended into communication range, and the diplomatic envoy began to prepare their messages of peace and alliance. Ready to greet this new race with open arms, they assumed a cordial response awaited them. After all, they were offering a chance for cooperation. What they were not prepared for was the first message that came across the comms. An unsettling, cold tone broke the silence that had stretched for light years and filled the diplomatic channels with a harsh clarity. "We are humanity," Captain Darian's voice rang out across the galaxy to the embassies and ships who had gathered. "We do not seek your alliance nor your acceptance. We have come to claim what is ours. We have returned, and the galaxy must acknowledge this." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the envoys to stare at each other in disbelief. The message, though brief, echoed throughout the galaxy's vast networks, sending ripples of uncertainty and fear through every empire. Humanity was not here to negotiate. They were not looking for a place among the stars. They were asserting their dominance. They had come to claim their legacy. The diplomatic envoys hastily returned to their fleets, unable to respond with anything coherent or meaningful. Their words faltered in the face of the human captain's cold certainty. The galaxy had heard the first glimpse of humanity's resolve, and it was clear they would not be appeased by empty promises or grand speeches. What humanity wanted now was simple and terrifying control. And as the Fury drifted closer to the galactic core, the empires of the galaxy began to understand the true meaning of Captain Darian's words. They had been living in a fragile peace, a peace that was about to be shattered forever. The galaxy had underestimated humanity's speed, its adaptability, and its unforgiving drive. The shockwaves of Earth's Fury's message had barely settled when the ship began its slow yet relentless advance toward the heart of the galaxy. No alliance, no empire, and no species had the luxury of assuming humanity was here to negotiate. Instead, they began to realize that the battleship Earth's Fury was moving with purpose. Each system it passed was marked by an eerie silence, a fearful stillness, as fleets of various alien races began to pull back, unsure of how to respond. What made humanity's advance so terrifying was not simply their technological might, though it was certainly unmatched. It was the unspoken determination of the people themselves, those who had survived apocalyptic events on their homeworld and fought to rebuild again and again. The battleship wasn't just a ship to them. It was a symbol, a monument to the survival of a species that refused to die. As Earth's Fury moved further into known space, its massive size loomed over entire star systems. Its hull, dark as the void itself, shimmered with the faintest glimmers of energy, a silent reminder that this was no ordinary ship. With each passing system, the threat was clear. Humanity's return would not be peaceful, and their objectives were singular: domination or destruction. The galactic empires did what they had always done when faced with a threat. They called upon their fleets, mobilized their most powerful warships, and prepared for the inevitable conflict. However, their response was sluggish, fragmented, and disjointed. In the face of an unknown foe, each empire hesitated, unsure whether to strike first or wait for further intelligence. By the time they had made their decisions, Earth's Fury had already reached the outermost rim of the Genlar systems, and the first encounter between humanity and the galaxy's defenders would unfold with catastrophic consequences. The Genlar, known for their precision and calculated strategies, sent a fleet of their most advanced warships to confront the Fury, hoping that their superior tactics would be enough to take down this unknown species. They had faced greater numbers and deadlier threats before, and they assumed this would be no different. Their fleet assembled, sleek ships cutting through the void like knives, positioning themselves in perfect formation around Earth's Fury. They demanded the human ship halt, their comm channels filled with urgent messages for a peaceful resolution. But the Fury did not respond with diplomacy. Instead, it unleashed its weaponry with a precision and devastating power that none of the Genlar had anticipated. The first barrage of energy pulses cut through their formations as if they were made of paper, warships crumbling under the might of humanity's technology. In a matter of minutes, half the fleet was reduced to debris, floating in the void, the rest retreating in disarray. Earth's Fury had not even fired its main guns yet. The ship simply moved forward, without breaking its silence, leaving nothing but the wreckage of Genlar pride behind. The Genlar War Council, stunned by the speed and lethality of humanity's attack, scrambled for answers. But the humans were already gone, advancing further into the galaxy's core. They had no time to regroup, no time to reconsider their strategies. Every fleet that came in contact with Earth's Fury was met with the same cold, relentless assault. As the Fury continued its march, rumors began to spread among the galactic races. Humanity wasn't just a military threat. They were a cultural one as well. Their sheer tenacity, their history of overcoming impossible odds, made them a force unlike any the galaxy had ever encountered. While other races may have relied on complex diplomacy or advanced technologies, humanity had one thing that no one could take from them: the will to survive and the determination to conquer what they could not control. The galaxy was quickly learning that humanity did not need to rely on treaties, alliances, or negotiations to get what it wanted. It would simply take it. And as Earth's Fury moved deeper into galactic territory, that lesson became harder to ignore. The universe was beginning to realize that a new era was approaching, one that would be shaped by humanity's unyielding presence, and there was little anyone could do to stop it. The galaxy had known many wars, countless battles fought in the name of expansion, dominance, and survival. Yet none had ever felt quite like this. The Genlar fleet, a proud force once feared across the stars, was nothing more than space debris now. The fact that their most advanced warships had fallen in mere minutes was an unprecedented blow to galactic pride. The other empires, who had long maintained their superiority through political maneuvering and advanced technology, began to feel something they had not known for centuries: fear. The fear was not merely of a new species rising to power, but of something much deeper, something primal. As the Earth's Fury advanced further into their territory, the galaxy's leaders began to recall stories from ancient times, stories of a species that had once roamed the stars in the distant past. The humans had been thought to have perished, their civilization wiped out by cosmic catastrophe, or so the legend said. Now, they were here, and their very presence was stirring memories that the galaxy had long buried. The Xathar, one of the oldest and most powerful empires, had been especially dismissive of the human threat. They believed themselves invincible, having survived for eons in the cold expanse of space, their fleets unmatched by any other species. But the sight of Earth's Fury in their outer systems shattered that illusion. Their ancient archives spoke of the First Wars, a time when humans had once fought to the brink of annihilation only to emerge stronger than before. It was said that when humans were pushed into a corner, they fought with an intensity and ferocity that no other species could rival. The Xathar had seen the remains of those wars in their archives, but they had never expected such a threat to resurface. In the corridors of the Xathar High Command, a deep and unsettling silence fell over the War Council as the battle strategies were laid out. The once confident leaders of the Empire, known for their cold logic and razor-sharp intellects, were now rattled. Their advisors warned that any attempt to confront humanity head-on would result in catastrophic losses. The humans had already proven that their firepower could obliterate entire fleets in mere moments. Worse still, there was no telling just how far they would go in their pursuit of conquest. The once stable alliances between the galactic races began to fracture as old fears resurfaced. The Genlar, now humbled by their defeat, retreated further into their star systems, unwilling to engage the humans again. The Vathric, notorious for their brutal warlords and vicious armies, began pulling back, wary of drawing humanity's ire. The Cinder, a peaceful race known for their vast intelligence and diplomacy, sent desperate messages, offering whatever knowledge they had to help defend against the human threat, but their pleas went unanswered. In every corner of the galaxy, from the bustling trade stations of the galactic capital to the quiet, far-off colonies at the edge of known space, one question echoed in the minds of every leader: how do you fight a species that doesn't fear war? As Earth's fury continued its inexorable march deeper into the galaxy, the mood across the stars shifted. For the first time in millennia, the once diverse races of the galaxy were united by one undeniable truth: humanity could not be ignored, and it could not be defeated in the ways they knew. The galaxy's greatest strength had always been its unity, its shared power, and its ability to align forces against a common enemy. But now, that strength was slipping away, dissolved by the overwhelming presence of a single ship and the species it represented. The ancient fears of an unstoppable force, of a species that would not bend to anyone's will, had resurfaced, and the galaxy could do nothing but watch in horror as humanity's battleship carved its path through the stars. The true nature of humanity was only beginning to reveal itself, and with it came the terrifying realization that the universe had underestimated what was coming. The galaxy's empires, still reeling from the sudden shock of humanity's arrival, tried desperately to regroup. Diplomatic envoys were sent, but they were quickly turned away or silenced by the cold precision of Earth's fury. Some worlds attempted to strike back with their own fleets, and yet every effort resulted in catastrophic losses. The battle at Jorak 7 would become the defining moment, the first time the full extent of humanity's power would be felt in the core worlds. Jorak 7 was a heavily fortified planet at the edge of the galactic core, home to one of the Genlar's most powerful military strongholds. The Genlar believed that their vast defenses would be more than enough to hold off any potential threat, even the arrival of the human battleship. The planet was equipped with cutting-edge planetary shields, orbital defense platforms, and a fleet capable of defending against the most powerful invaders. The Genlar had fought off countless species, and they were confident that humanity, with all its bluster, would not be able to breach their defenses. For days, Earth's fury sat in orbit above Jorak 7, silent and unmoving. The Genlar had made the first mistake by underestimating the human ship's lethality. Their fleets gathered around the planet, waiting for the first sign of aggression. The Genlar emissaries attempted to initiate communication with Captain Darien, but their messages were met only with the unyielding silence of the fury. The cold indifference in the face of their desperation was more unsettling than any response. And then it happened. The first sign of humanity's true strength came not in a massive barrage of lasers or a devastating missile strike, but in the hum of energy that began to vibrate through the fabric of space itself. Earth's fury had not fired a single shot yet, but what followed next would leave the galaxy forever altered. The main cannon of the fury, a weapon that had been rumored to exist but never fully understood, came to life. A pulse of energy, bright and furious, shot from the ship and impacted the moon of Jorak 7. There was no warning, no precursor to the explosion. The energy shot tore through the atmosphere, and within seconds, the moon was reduced to nothing more than particles floating in space. The shockwave was so intense that it rattled the very foundations of the planet below, shaking the surface with tremors felt across the continent. In the blink of an eye, a moon-sized fortress, which had once stood as a symbol of Genlar might, was gone. The gravity of the event hit harder than any weapon. Earth's fury had proven that it could obliterate entire celestial bodies with a single shot. The Genlar fleet, which had been carefully positioned to defend the planet, was in disarray. Their shields and defense systems, designed to repel even the most powerful attacks, were utterly useless against the destructive force humanity had at its disposal. The galaxy watched, stunned, as Jorak 7's moon was erased from existence. There was no rebuilding, no second chances. The raw power of the human weapon had cut through the defenses of a proud empire with terrifying efficiency. In that single moment, the galaxy realized that humanity had not come to play politics or engage in diplomacy. They had come with a purpose, one that would see them take what they wanted, no matter the cost. As Genlar officials scrambled to organize their surviving forces, they understood that this weapon was not the extent of humanity's arsenal. Earth's fury was just getting started, and they had only seen a glimpse of what humanity was capable of. Every attempt to engage would end in failure. The galaxy now faced something it had never faced before. A species that did not require victory through conventional means, but through sheer force of will, unrelenting and absolute. The message had been sent in a way that words could never accomplish. Humanity had arrived, and it would leave nothing standing in its way. The galaxy trembled as the full weight of Earth's fury loomed ahead. The destruction of Jorak 7's moon was not just a military defeat. It was a message, a horrifying reminder of humanity's resolve, one that rippled throughout the galaxy's vast expanse. The spectacle left the empires of the stars stunned and scrambling for a way to respond. The Genlar, their pride shattered, retreated deeper into their systems, their leaders now haunted by the realization that they could not defeat the humans with tactics or technology alone. Earth's fury had shown them that strength was not just measured in firepower. It was measured in something more intangible, more terrifying: the human will to survive. As the other empires watched the carnage unfold, they began to search for answers, diving into the depths of their archives, digging through forgotten histories and ancient texts. What they discovered was something that had been dismissed for centuries: the true nature of humanity. The Genlar archives, once filled with boasts about their ancient victories, now revealed something they hadn't fully understood. Humanity had survived the darkest moments of their own history, battles that had nearly wiped them out, only to rise again. Every defeat, every extinction-level event had forged them into a species that would not bend, would not break, and would never stop fighting. The Vathric, once quick to mock the human species as a fleeting civilization, now faced their own fears. They had believed themselves the apex predators of the galaxy, ruthless, savage, and cunning, but humanity's refusal to accept defeat was something they had never encountered. They knew how to crush their enemies, but they had never faced a species like the humans, who could not be crushed, who could not be reasoned with. The Vathric chieftains, known for their brutal strength, now convened in secret, unsure how to prepare for a war they hadn't started, a war they didn't want, but one that was inevitable. Even the Cinder, who had long prided themselves on their wisdom and knowledge, were terrified. They'd reached out to other races, urging them to form an alliance, to do whatever they could to combat the coming storm. But each plea for unity was met with hesitation, for they understood what the galaxy's greatest minds were coming to realize. Humanity's power wasn't in their technology alone. It was in their unyielding will, their refusal to accept anything less than victory. In every corner of the galaxy, fear took root. The thought of joining forces against humanity seemed more and more like a last-ditch effort, a desperate measure for survival. The galaxy's most powerful fleets were being restructured, not to fight humanity head-on, but to find a way to delay the inevitable. The galaxy had always believed that they could control the flow of the universe, but they now faced an unsettling truth. Humanity's arrival had disrupted everything they had built. The balance of power was slipping through their fingers, and they were powerless to stop it. The answer, the strategy the galaxy had been waiting for, did not come from the military nor the diplomats, but from a distant, forgotten species, the Xethar. Known for their ability to predict patterns and read the cosmos like a map, the Xethar had long kept a careful eye on Earth. They had studied the humans, their history, and their unwavering resolve. What the Xethar understood, what no one else seemed to grasp, was that humanity's greatest weapon was not its ship, its technology, or its weaponry. It was the simple, unyielding truth that humans could survive against all odds. Where others would break, humanity would press on. Where others would fall, humanity would rise. In the quiet corners of the Xethar Council chambers, The leaders began to prepare for what seemed like the only option left. To survive, they would have to learn to understand humanity on a deeper level, to attempt something that had never been done before. But even as they began their planning, a more pressing reality loomed overhead. Time was running out. Earth's fury was still moving, and with each passing moment, the galaxy's fragile alliances were beginning to unravel. The only certainty in the galaxy now was that humanity had proven one undeniable truth. It was no longer a species to be ignored. The will to survive, to endure, would be humanity's legacy, and every empire, every species in the galaxy, would have to reckon with it. The humans had come, and the universe was about to change forever. The galaxy's collective response to humanity's arrival had been fragmented at best, a hasty series of alliances and tactical meetings held in desperation. What had been assumed to be an opportunistic attack or an unprovoked expansion into galactic space had now become a nightmare that no one was prepared for. Earth's fury moved relentlessly, its path clear and unalterable, as it continued its silent march toward the heart of the galaxy. But the galaxy's leaders, finally understanding the true nature of their enemy, now began to strategize, albeit too late. The Xithar, realizing that they could not defeat humanity through conventional military force, began to explore a different approach. They sent word to the other galactic factions, the Genlar, the Vathric, even the Cinder, urging them to pool their resources, their technology, and their fleets. The idea of a united front was born not from desire, but from necessity. The Xithar had predicted that humanity's relentless will would force them into an all-or-nothing conflict, and the galaxy was not prepared for such an overwhelming force. But if they could somehow work together, perhaps they could overwhelm Earth's fury, at least slow its progress. However, this idea was met with resistance. Some races saw the possibility of an alliance as a way to control humanity, to bend them to their will. Others, still reeling from the devastation of their individual encounters with the human ship, doubted that unity would even matter. The Genlar, their forces broken and reeling, still did not trust the Cinder's pacifist nature. The Vathric, whose culture had long been based on survival through bloodshed, were unwilling to trust any of the other factions. But despite the rifts and tensions, the Xithar's prediction held weight. The threat humanity posed was simply too great to ignore, and one by one, the factions began to align, each motivated by self-preservation. But even as the various empires formed their tentative alliances, humanity remained eerily quiet. Earth's fury, silent as ever, made no further moves. Its position in the galaxy remained unchanged. And for a brief, fleeting moment, the galactic leaders dared to hope that perhaps they had time, that maybe they could find a way to strike before humanity fully engage. It was a dangerous assumption. The Xithar were the first to recognize the flaw in this line of thinking, their far-reaching minds sensing the same pattern they had seen before. Humanity didn't need to act immediately. They understood that the galaxy's chaos, its infighting, and its fear would be the perfect distraction. Humanity was patient. It wasn't just a military threat. It was a strategic one. They had waited millennia, and now they were letting the galaxy do the work for them. And then, just as the last of the alliances were forming, it happened. Earth's fury struck, but it didn't strike at the galactic core, nor did it target the central systems, where the majority of the galaxy's forces were concentrated. It attacked something more vulnerable, something more fundamental. In a move that no one saw coming, Earth's fury's weaponry, once thought to be designed for planetary obliteration, turned inward. The ship fired a series of energy pulses directly into the galactic communications network, severing the connections between the core systems and the outer colonies. The result was catastrophic. Communication lines, intelligence sharing, and coordination between fleets evaporated in an instant. Entire sectors of the galaxy were now blind to the movements of the human ship. The once unified front fractured into chaos. This was the true power of humanity, their ability to strike unseen, to understand the weak points of any system, and to exploit them ruthlessly. Earth's Fury wasn't just a ship of war. It was a force that understood the galaxy's heart, its interconnectedness, and it had severed it with ruthless precision. Entire fleets in the Outer Rim had no idea they were under threat until it was too late. The terror now wasn't just in humanity's firepower, but in the way they had disrupted the very communication that held the galaxy together. The galaxy's leaders were left scrambling. The war that had been planned in haste and fear was now thrown into disarray. The factions that had been on the verge of uniting were now scattered, each scrambling to recover, each racing to prevent their own total collapse. The tide of the war had shifted, not in humanity's favor, but in theirs. And as the Fury continued its unrelenting advance, one thing became clear. Humanity was not just a conqueror of planets. They were a conqueror of order itself. The galaxy was fractured. The once mighty empires, whose power had been built on centuries of control and interstellar diplomacy, were now scrambling for survival. The communication blackout caused by Earth's Fury had done more than cripple military coordination. It had exposed the galaxy's greatest weakness, its reliance on unity and information. Without a common voice to strategize, without the ability to communicate across vast distances, the galaxy's most formidable races were reduced to isolated pockets of resistance. But even in their isolation, they were not without strength. The Xathar, the Vathric, and the Cinder had all begun to reorganize their forces, each attempting to rally the others to mount a counteroffensive. There was still hope, they thought. If they could just band together, if they could rebuild their broken communication networks, they might have a chance to halt humanity's unrelenting advance. In the midst of this chaotic scramble, Earth's Fury moved onward, its massive presence an undeniable, omnipresent threat. The ship's silence was perhaps the most terrifying aspect of it all. There was no boastful rhetoric from Captain Darien, no demands or threats. They had proven that they could obliterate entire fleets, devastate planets, and cripple galactic infrastructure. But it was the stillness, the calm advance of humanity's worship that sent a ripple of dread through every world in its path. For all the broken alliances and splintered coalitions, the galaxy's final hope lay in one last, desperate strike. The empires realized that the only way to stand against humanity was to focus everything they had into one coordinated effort. The Xathar, with their unmatched intelligence and strategic foresight, began devising a plan that would require every fleet, every ship, and every soldier to be in perfect sync. It would be the galaxy's final stand, a last unified assault against the Fury itself. The Genlar, still humbled by their previous defeat, had little hope that they could win, but their military pride demanded participation. The Vathric, their warriors driven by an innate sense of survival, rallied their strongest forces. Even the Cinder, though reluctant to fight, agreed to contribute the advanced technology they had developed over millennia of peace. This was to be their one chance, their one opportunity to regain the stability the galaxy had once known. The plan was set. The fleets were assembled in secret, coordinated by the few remaining intact communication channels. The Fury was advancing toward the final core systems, where the last bastion of galactic civilization lay. The final confrontation was near, and for the first time in months, a glimmer of hope began to form among the fractured empires. The fleets, massive and numerous, took up positions at the edges of the core systems, waiting for Earth's Fury to appear. They knew it would not be an easy fight, that humanity had weapons far beyond anything they had ever encountered. But there was no turning back. The galaxy's last chance rested on this moment. And then, as if on cue, Earth's Fury appeared on the horizon of the final system, its shadow stretching across the stars. The galaxy's combined fleets, united for the first time in this conflict, launched their assault with everything they had. Missiles flew, energy pulses lit up the void, and fleets clashed in a fury of explosions and debris. For a fleeting moment, it seemed as if they might have a chance, until the Fury unleashed its full power. The first volley from the Fury's main cannon obliterated a dozen warships before they even had time to react. The force was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The energy pulses ripped through entire formations, scattering fleets and turning ships into smoldering wreckage in the blink of an eye. The Fury did not respond with strategic maneuvers or evasive tactics. It simply unleashed destruction with cold, calculated precision. In the chaos, the empires realized what had become clear long before this final stand. They were no longer the dominant force in the galaxy. Humanity was not a species to be reasoned with, to be defeated through strength or diplomacy. They were a force of nature, an unstoppable tide that had not come to make allies but to conquer, to claim what had once been their own. As the last of the fleets crumbled and Earth's fury continued its slow, inexorable path forward, the galaxy understood the full weight of Captain Darian's first message. Humanity had returned not to ask for permission, but to reclaim its place among the stars. And the galaxy, once so proud and certain of its future, could do nothing but watch as it was consumed by the unyielding march of Earth's fury. In the end, the universe learned that survival had always been humanity's greatest weapon. And now, it was humanity's time to rule.